Yeah, it's going to start on the defensive side of the ball. We put that up there for a reason. Lamar Jackson has been playing lights out. The defense has to step up, and I think one way for them to do it, the Bengals haven't done a good job of protecting Joe Burrow. The Ravens don't have to blitz this game. The Bengals receivers, they're elite. You talk about Jamar on one side, and you got T. Higgins, you got Boyd in the slot. Allocate your defensive backs, your linebackers, whether you're playing man, whether you're playing zone. Let those guys do the covering. Let the front four guys get after Joe Burrow. We don't have to blitz them. Let's get some pressure on them, and let's cover these guys up. But the Ravens have let teams come back, starting with the Miami game. Lamar Jackson's out there. They're putting points up. They have 2 interceptions by Marcus Williams. They're playing good football, and then they just let them storm back in the game. They handle business versus the Patriots where, yes, Mac Jones threw for over 300 yards, but they took the ball away 3 times. They're leading the NFL in interceptions right now. They're doing some good things. They just have to be able to get pressure, put everybody in coverage. Marlon Humphrey alluded to it a little bit during his press conference this week. And, Kyle, you can talk a little bit more to that because Marlon Humphrey's our guy. We love him.
You have to love Marlon Humphrey. He's an amazing dude who, at times, is a really good player. Those times have not been largely against Cincinnati. And what Jason's talking about is that Marlon was asked about, you get down, the defense gets beat a little bit, and what's it like to see that? And he referenced this program.
The cafeteria will humble you. You got the Good Morning Football, NFL Network, Stephen A. It's something I want to do one day, so I think some guys will be mad at me one day. But it's humbling to look up there and be like, dang, we got Marcus Peters, Ball Hawk, got me, Marcus Williams, Dog, Chuck, all these guys, great players, but, we're still trying to come together. I mean, to look up there and be eating lunch and you see 32nd, you're just like, it's great to see because, I like to stay humble, but we're still trying to gel together, and we really want to get that, 32nd down.
Well, if you'd like to stay humble, wait to hear what Peter says in a minute. Hold on a second. But here's what I would say. He says, I want to do this someday, which he obviously will. He has the charisma, and he says, and people are going to get mad at me. They're only going to get mad at you, Marlon, if you're unfair and if it's gratuitous. Otherwise, they'll say, facts, you're right. There's nothing gratuitous about saying that you guys have gotten destroyed by Cincinnati or by saying that you guys have blown leads or the secondary's really dropped the ball this year. This is what we see. So I just think if you look back to those, when we look at the ascension of the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase experience, the Ravens were in the background of that ascension. In the painting, they're Brian Russell with the shot getting hit over him. They're Patrick Ewing getting dunked on. They're Frederick Weiss in that situation, okay? That's how bad it was. So, Marlon, if you and your cohorts had ever any game that you were looking forward to, or when you're working out in the offseason, like that Bengals game, that Bengals game, week 5, like I will never let another team do that to us. Yeah. It was rough. And so this is not gratuitous. We love Marlon Humphrey. We love the Ravens, but we have to be fair. And it's been really bad. And then this season, to start the season, has not been much better. Peter, jump in here.
Let's beam right in. If we are on right now in Owings Mills, Maryland, and we're at the Castle, and I've been in that cafeteria countless times, let's put the volume up on the TV.
Unmute, guys. Give me a second to unmute.
Let me just speak to you.
Closed captioning. Catch
Let's see the rankings of the worst teams in the NFL when it comes to pass defense right now.
Oh, man.
It is you. It is him.
It's not close, actually.
And they are being compared to some of the worst defenses we've seen in the NFL's history in pass defense. Now, let's call out those names because these are men with a lot of pride. In that first column, you're talking about Marcus Peters, one of the best of his generation. You're talking about Marlon Humphrey, a first-round pick. You're talking about Chucky Clark, who has been really good. You're talking about Marcus Williams, who just signed a $50 million contract to come over. You're talking about Kyle Hamilton, a first-round pick taking in the first 15. You're talking about Jalen Armour Davis, an Alabama star. You are talking about grown men who do this for a living and do it really well. Put the volume up in Owings Mills. Now is gut check time. And it's not a joke anymore. This defensive backfield is the Achilles heel of the Baltimore Ravens. I can't believe I'm saying that. For a franchise that has prided itself on defense for so many years. And if ever there was a time to look at yourselves in the mirror and say, enough is enough, it's now. They have lost 5 straight home games, and they have lost the last 2 in crazy fashion to Joe Burrow, who's thrown for over 900 yards in 2 games against this Ravens defense. Don't talk about defensive coordinator. Don't talk about the front 7. Defensive backfield. It is your get-right game. Now is the time. Crank the volume up in Owings Mills. This is when we have to get right.
Jay, how would you feel if you were carrying your cereal tray through the cafeteria right now and you heard Peter going off
threw
on
the
your
bowl of
defense
cereal
like
at the
that?
team.
Would you?
right?
Or would you say
Like,
this
the
is-
hell with Schrager.
Would you
this
say
is-
enough of this?
No, it's true. 100%. I think that's why Marlon Humphrey said it. Like,
Yeah.
you don't bring that up if somebody's talking about you on TV and they're just getting personal or they're saying these random things. He brings it up because they're sitting in the cafeteria and they're just like, damn, fellas, we suck. Like, we got to figure this out. And I think, like you just said, gut check, because it's not like sometimes you watch a team and you're just like, they're bad, but you look at the personnel, it's just like, you know what, they're rebuilding, they have some young guys out there.
For stars.
It's not the case here. Like, they have really good football players in that back end. They have to figure it out this week.
Listen, it would be such a cool story if the Eagles and the Ravens were undefeated at this point this season. And it very well could have been that situation because the Ravens coughed up 2 games where they had the lead. And that's where I go, is in the second half of games against the Bills and the Dolphins where you had the lead. And what do? You have one of the most enigmatic quarterback runners in the league ever. And you're doing these weird, short completion attempts that kind of fail late in the game. You're not keeping the clock running. You're not setting your quarterback up for success. I mean, this is just a weird way to try to move the ball down the field and retain a lead. This looks like a team that's trying to that is behind the sticks and they're playing from behind. It's not a team that was up by 10, 13, 7. What's going on when it comes to the Ravens closing the door? And I get that the defense has had its woes, but the pride factor also has to come from an offense that says, all right, at times we have to lift up our other unit and we have to go out there, move the ball, keep the ball moving, keep the clock moving, and even if we get into the red zone, make a better decision than this, which is like to collapse on the 3-yard line in the second half and to allow 2 teams that would have been such a statement win to come back and beat you at home. My goodness, Ravens, like you got to be able to close the door.
I agree. Is the volume still up? Because the point that James making, we just kicked the defense around. In the second half of that Bills game, Lamar Jackson was not good. Not good at all. And he threw a terrible interception that even if he throws an incompletion, the Bills have the ball at the 2-yard line coming out. Lamar has played a great season. He was not good in the second half against Buffalo.
There comes a point where if Cincinnati blows out Baltimore in Baltimore, you've got a Joe Burrow problem. Like that they just then it becomes what Brady did to the Bills for years, and it gets to that point where it's like, wait a second, this guy owns us. Josh Allen to the Dolphins, whatever it was.
They have a Joe Burrow problem. Do they have a John Harbaugh problem?
No, I wouldn't go that far yet.
Really?
I would not go that far yet. But you can't keep losing these home games.
There'd just be 6 straight. They'd be 2 and 3.
6.
Lamar's contract, I have no idea what's going on with it overall. They got players yelling about on the
Turn
sideline.
the volume down, Goings Mills.